Hi, I'm Brooke Kestamo.
And I'm Greg Lutsky, and our myth was that individuals commonly repress the memories of traumatic experiences. Repressed memories are after an individual experiences traumatic events, they store the memory in their brain, but they cannot access it. And also, to piggyback off this, there's also a myth that treatments such as hypnosis and visual imagery and leading questions can help retrieve these memories.
And also in an article we found by Richard McNally called The Debunking Myths About Trauma and Memory, he said that some claim the mind can protect itself by banishing the most horrific experiences from awareness.
Prior to researching this myth, I thought that traumatic experiences would either be vividly remembered by an individual or they'd completely block it out because they didn't want to memorize it. So I was kind of on the fence in that regard. On the other hand, with the hypnosis, I actually thought that hypnosis, visual imagery, and leading questions could help retrieve these memories.
And then before I read the section in the book, I didn't think that people could completely repress memories. I always thought that they could remember it in some way. I did also think that prior to reading the myth about like the hypnosis and the guided imagery therapy, I thought that those were ways that could help bring back details of the memory, maybe not like the whole thing, but just important parts that they may have forgotten over time. But I always kind of thought that they remembered the experience in some way.
And in the book 50 Great Myths, it talked about how prior to 1800s, there wasn't any talk of repressed memories. And before the late 1800s, when Sigmund Freud came around, who said that repression of memories was the unconscious motivated forgetting of unpleasant memories. And he also believed that obsessional neurosis and hysteria were produced by the repression of memories of sexual molestation in childhood.
And then in McNally's article, he explained how traumatic amnesia theorists acknowledge that most victims remember the trauma, but then they also claim that a large minority of the victims are incapable of remembering the horrific experience because the trauma was too traumatic for the mind to contemplate.
So some evidence to debunk the myths was in the book 50 Great Myths. Psychiatrist David Holmes, he looked at 60 years of research and was quoted as saying, "Warning, the concept of repression has not been validated with the experimental research and its use may be hazardous to the accurate interpretation of clinical behavior." And he actually said that most people remembered traumatic events more than they would have liked.
And then the two wars that go on with memory is that one views all the scientific research and study on memory in the brain, and the other holds that memory for trauma obeys different laws and renders much of the science about the memory in mind irrelevant.
Now, despite this claim, it's important to make sure that one side isn't biased, either those that make the myth up or those that disprove it. And the important thing about the repressed memories is there had been issues where people have gone through treatment and they had said that they made up events of like satanic cults or alien abductions, and this kind of really questioned, in the 1900s, people started to question the validity of these treatments because sometimes people would make up events that they knew were proving to be untrue, so this kind of clouded whether the potential true statements, and it kind of disproved the theory of these treatments.
And then in McNally's article, he explains how traumatic amnesia theorists don't always ignore the scientific part, but sometimes they use it for support, but they misread it or misuse it. And I think that that's an area that maybe the authors of the book or other people trying to prove that these are really myths should look into that area, so then people can really see the difference between good scientific studies and then studies that were misread or misinterpreted.
In conclusion, the myth that individuals commonly repress the memories of traumatic experiences was proven to be false. In McNally's article, he states that when science is interpreted properly, the evidence shows that traumatic events are highly memorable and seldom, if ever, forgotten, and also that individuals who seek treatment to help retrieve their memories was also proven to be false.